Most people move fast, but never arrive anywhere. They wake up rushing, chase goals that numb them, and fall asleep with a quiet ache that whispers, "This isn't it." And if you're listening to this right now, it's because a part of you feels it too. That subtle pull inside, the awareness that no matter how hard you push, something in your inner world is still misaligned. Here is the truth most people avoid. Life doesn't change when you achieve more. It changes when you align your energy, your psychology, and your inner frequency with what truly matters. You're not just moving through life, you're interacting with it. Your thoughts, emotions, and patterns broadcast a signal that shapes your relationships, your opportunities, and your destiny. When the inner signal is chaotic, the outer world mirrors that chaos. When the inner world becomes steady, everything else begins to shift. That's why this audiobook exists, not to hype you up for a day, but to transform the field you live from. Because when your inner world recalibrates, the outer world must follow. So ask yourself honestly, are you truly living or just getting through the days? Do you wake with intention or with repetition? When was the last time you felt at home inside yourself, clear, calm, aligned? If something in you knows there is more, this is your turning point, your invitation to stop running outward and finally turn inward. In this journey, you will uncover 10 essential truths, 10 roots of a meaningful life: self-knowledge, past acceptance, inner strength, presence, honesty, emotional safety, emotional mastery, meaningful work, forgiveness, and sacred use of time. These are not concepts. They are shifts in your nervous system and your energetic blueprint. This work won't always feel comfortable, but the discomfort of growth is nothing compared to the cost of staying misaligned. Your return to yourself begins now. If you're ready to rise above the noise, like the video. It tells YouTube you're choosing awareness over autopilot. Subscribe now, and don't miss the next chapter in your evolution. And remember, the deepest transformation belongs to those who stay until the very end. Chapter 1. Know yourself deeply. The origin point. Knowing yourself is not a poetic idea written in a book. It is the foundation of everything you will ever build. Most people drift through life reacting to whatever shows up, hoping things will work out, chasing momentum instead of direction. They live busy, but lost, productive, but misaligned, accomplished, but strangely empty. And it's not because they lack potential. It's because they never paused long enough to understand who they are, beneath the noise, beneath roles, beneath expectations, beneath the version of themselves they perform for the world. You have lived many years with yourself, yet how often have you stopped to ask, why do I think this way? Why do I feel this strongly? Why do I react like this? Why do I chase what I chase? These questions sound simple, yet they unlock the entire architecture of your life. Because everything, your relationships, your choices, your dreams, your failures, your habits, your healing, begins with who you are when the world becomes quiet. Most people never meet themselves. They only meet their patterns. They meet the survival version of who they became during childhood. They meet the defensive version built from past wounds. They meet the overworking version shaped by fear of failure, or the people-pleasing version shaped by fear of being unwanted. They meet the mask, the armor, the performance, but they do not meet themselves. The truth is this: success without self-understanding is fragile. It can look beautiful on the outside and feel hollow on the inside. You can build an entire life that fits the world's expectations and still feel disconnected from your own soul. You can achieve goals and still feel empty. You can be admired, but exhausted, praised, but lost. Self-knowledge begins with paying attention, not to the world, but to yourself. Notice how you think. Notice how you feel. Notice how you react when life challenges you. These reactions are not random. They reveal your internal wiring, the hidden programs running your life. When something excites you, that's a clue. When something drains you, that's a clue. When something triggers you, that's a clue. You are filled with signals, emotional, psychological, energetic, constantly pointing you toward your truth. But most people ignore their own inner world and then wonder why life feels confusing. Your emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. Anger reveals what boundaries matter to you. Jealousy shows you what you secretly desire. Fear reveals the direction you need to grow in. Peace shows you where you are aligned. Every emotion is energy moving through your system, carrying information. When you ignore these signals, you lose contact with yourself. When you listen, you begin seeing patterns, real patterns that explain your reactions, your choices, and your behavior. Every person on earth has a driving force underneath their actions. Some are driven by fear of failure, some by the need for approval, some by the hunger for growth, freedom, connection, greatness. If you don't know your driving force, you will spend years trying to fill a hole that never closes. You will chase goals that do not satisfy you because they were never yours in the first place. Real change begins when you identify what truly moves you. Ask yourself with radical honesty, what am I chasing and why? Approval, security, power, love, mastery, control, freedom. Be brutally honest. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. Once you face your truth, something powerful happens. You stop drifting. You stop wasting energy on paths that were never meant for you. You stop trying to be liked by people who don't matter. You stop living for validation. You begin choosing from clarity, not confusion, from intention, not reaction, from truth, not fear. Self-awareness is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong process. You grow, and your understanding of yourself grows with you. But the process always begins with silence. You cannot hear your own soul if you are constantly filling every gap with noise, notifications, conversations, distractions, endless stimulation. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is information. Silence is where your true voice becomes audible again. The world is loud. It constantly tells you who to be, what to want, what to chase, what to fear, what to become. But your soul speaks softly. To hear it, you must slow down. You must create space. You must listen. When you do, a strange thing happens. You start trusting yourself again. And when you trust yourself, you stop making decisions rooted in pressure and start making decisions rooted in purpose. Self-knowledge also means understanding your strengths and weaknesses without judgment. Strengths reveal where your energy naturally flows. Weaknesses reveal where you need support, structure, or growth. Self-honesty is not self-criticism. It is clarity. And clarity is one of the most powerful forms of freedom. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who do everything well. They are the ones who know themselves well. They do not pretend to be limitless. They do not waste time fighting their own nature. They leverage their strengths and design systems around their weaknesses. They operate from alignment, not ego. To know yourself deeply is to understand your values, the internal compass that determines the direction of your life. What do you stand for? What kind of person do you want to be when no one is watching? Values create stability in a world that constantly shifts around you. Without values, you drift. With values, you navigate. Finally, knowing yourself means understanding your story. Every chapter, joyous, painful, confusing, triumphant, shaped you. You are not defined by what happened to you, but you are shaped by what you learned from it. When you study your past with compassion instead of shame, you turn pain into wisdom. You stop seeing your past as a chain and start seeing it as a teacher. Because self-awareness is not an end. It is a beginning. The beginning of a life built on truth, not illusion. When you know yourself, you stop searching for happiness in the wrong places. You stop living someone else's script. You stop fearing change because you know you can rebuild from the inside out. When you know yourself, you stop trying to be someone and finally become someone. Yourself. Chapter 2. Understand your driving forces and hidden programs. Every person lives according to an inner script they did not consciously write. You wake up each day believing you are choosing freely, but much of what you do, what you chase, what you avoid, what you tolerate, what you fear, is shaped by the invisible programs running beneath your awareness. These programs are formed early, stored in your nervous system, and reinforced by every experience that followed. Until you understand them, you are not living your life. You are repeating your patterns. One of the most important questions you will ever ask yourself is, what is truly driving me? Most people never ask this because it's easier to keep moving than to look inward. But busyness is not clarity. Motion is not direction. And efforts rooted in unconscious fear will never lead to fulfillment. Maybe your driving force is approval. Maybe it's security. Maybe it's the fear of not being enough. Maybe it's a hunger for achievement, because achievement once protected you from feeling small. Maybe it's perfectionism, because perfection once kept you safe from criticism. Maybe it's overworking, because slowing down forces you to feel emotions you've avoided for years. Maybe it's control, because unpredictability once left you wounded. These forces are not random. They are survival codes written into your internal system long before you had the power to question them. And here is the truth most people never hear. You cannot outgrow a pattern you do not understand. You cannot build a future while running from a past that still lives in your nervous system. You cannot change your life by forcing new habits on top of old wounds. Awareness is the beginning of liberation. Your emotional reactions are a map. They point you toward the programs running your life. When someone criticizes you and your whole body tenses, that's not just sensitivity. It is the echo of an old belief that criticism equals danger. When you feel jealous of someone's success, that's not pettiness. It is a signal that you have desires inside you that you have been too afraid to claim. When you overthink small situations, that's not indecision. It is a nervous system trained to assume the worst to stay safe. Every trigger is a teacher. Every emotional spike is a message. Every overreaction is a doorway into an older part of yourself. These programs are not weaknesses. They are adaptations. They were created to protect you during moments when you didn't have the knowledge, strength, or support you have now. But what once protected you is now limiting you. Your life changes when you stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What is this reaction trying to tell me?" Because beneath every behavior is a need. The need to feel loved, safe, seen, valued, respected, understood. When those needs aren't met consciously, they show up unconsciously through patterns: overworking, shutting down, overgiving, withdrawing, controlling, pleasing, performing. The spiritual scientific truth is that your thoughts and emotions create electrical and biochemical signals that shape your energetic field. That field becomes your default frequency, and life reflects that frequency back to you. Not because of magic, but because your perception, decisions, and behaviors align with the energy you carry. This is why changing your life requires changing the inner forces driving it. Your patterns are not random. They are predictable. And once you see them clearly, you no longer confuse them with your identity. You begin to understand, I am not my triggers. I am not my fears. I am not my defenses. I am the one who observes them. That shift, moving from the pattern to the observer, is the beginning of real freedom. It's time to ask the questions you have avoided for years. What am I really chasing? Whose approval am I still trying to earn? What fear is controlling my choices? What wound is shaping my relationships? What belief do I carry that no longer matches the person I am becoming? Write your answers. Say them out loud. Pull them into the light. Awareness breaks the spell. A pattern exposed is a pattern weakened. Once you see the driving force beneath your actions, you gain the power to redirect it. Fear can become focus. Insecurity can become effort. Pain can become purpose. But only if you stop pretending that you already know yourself completely. Your inner world is not your enemy. It is your operating system. And every program can be rewritten when you finally face it with honesty instead of avoidance. Most people are terrified to look inward because they fear what they will find. But what you find inside yourself is never as dangerous as the life you create while avoiding it. Your patterns do not define you. They reveal you. They show you where your healing is. They show you where your power is waiting. They show you the exact places where you must grow next. When you understand your driving forces, you stop living as a reaction to your past and start living as a creation of your future. That is the moment your life stops repeating and begins evolving. Chapter 3. Accept your past fully. Peace with your story. There is a moment in life when you realize the past is not chasing you. You are carrying it. Every memory you avoided, every emotion you buried, every mistake you replay, every wound you pretend no longer matters. All of it stays alive inside you until you choose to face it. People cling to the idea that time heals all wounds, but that is not true. Time silences the noise, but it does not resolve the pain. Healing begins the moment you stop running from your story and decide to understand it. Most people don't fear their past. They fear what it will force them to feel. They fear the shame, the regret, the sadness, the anger, the disappointment. So they keep themselves busy, distracted, entertained, numbed. They drown the inner voice with noise and movement because stillness would make the truth unavoidable. But here is the truth. Nothing from your past has the power to destroy you unless you continue to avoid it. Avoidance is what keeps pain alive. Awareness is what sets it free. Accepting your past does not mean approving of what happened. It does not mean saying it was fair, right, or justified. Acceptance simply means acknowledging that it did happen and refusing to let it hold authority over the person you are becoming. It means ending the silent war between who you were and who you want to be. It means choosing peace over denial. Your past is part of you, but it is not all of you. It shaped you, but it does not define your future unless you let it. Think of your past as raw material, heavy, imperfect, unpolished. It becomes something meaningful only when you understand it. What once felt like a burden becomes a blueprint. What once felt like damage becomes direction. What once felt like failure becomes foundation. You might wish your past were different, but wishing does nothing. Avoiding does nothing. Editing memories does nothing. The only way forward is through truth, clear, steady truth, without self-judgment. You were doing the best you could with the awareness you had at the time. Every decision, every mistake, every reaction made sense based on the person you were back then. If you could have done better, you would have. This is compassion, not excuse. And compassion is what allows the nervous system to relax and release the grip of old memories. Pain that is unprocessed becomes stored energy. Your body remembers what your mind suppresses. Emotional wounds create physical tension. Old shame becomes chronic tightness. Fear becomes stomach knots. Grief becomes heaviness in your chest. These sensations are not coincidences. They are remnants of unintegrated experiences. The moment you stop fighting your story and start examining it, the body begins to soften. The mind begins to breathe. Energy that was frozen begins to move again. Acceptance transforms your relationship with the past. Instead of replaying old scenes with judgment, you start seeing the lessons beneath the events. The heartbreak that once shattered you taught you what love should not feel like. The betrayal showed you what loyalty truly means. The failure revealed your resilience. The toxic environments taught you the importance of boundaries. The disappointments showed you what you truly value. The mistakes taught you humility, responsibility, and awareness. Nothing was wasted, not even the parts you wish you could erase. Your past versions were not weak. They were surviving. They were protecting you with the limited tools they had. You are the upgraded version, living with the strength they earned. Instead of hating who you used to be, honor them. They carried you here. They kept you alive through confusion, heartbreak, fear, and chaos. You are not here in spite of them. You are here because of them. Acceptance also gives you power. When you accept your past, no one can use it against you. No memory can ambush you. No regret can control you. No shame can silence you. You become grounded, unshakable, because you are not hiding from yourself anymore. You no longer need to pretend, perform, or perfect your image. You stand in truth, and truth is the most stable ground a person can stand on. This does not mean the past stops hurting instantly. Healing is not a switch. It is a release, a loosening, a gradual integration. But once you begin the process, each day becomes lighter. Each memory becomes softer. Each emotion becomes clearer. You begin to see your past not as a prison, but as a curriculum. Life was not punishing you. Life was shaping you. And here is the most important part. Your past is not a prophecy. Just because something happened before does not mean it will repeat. You are not the same person. You are not living with the same awareness, the same boundaries, the same clarity, the same strength. The past is information, not destiny. Once you understand this, you stop fearing your history and start using it. Your story is yours for a reason. Not so it can weigh you down, but so it can wake you up. Everything you lived through taught you how to rise. Everything you endured taught you what matters. Everything you survived taught you who you are capable of becoming. Accept your past fully, because the moment you do, it loses the power to define you, and you regain the power to create the life you truly want. Chapter 4. Rewrite the meaning of your wounds. You cannot rewrite your past, but you can rewrite the meaning your past holds inside you. Most people never realize this. They think pain is permanent because they keep telling the same story about it. They repeat the same sentences, the same interpretations, the same labels they gave themselves years ago, during moments of fear, confusion, or heartbreak. They replay those moments as if the person who lived them is still the person they are now. But you are not. You have outgrown those moments. You have outgrown the version of yourself who lived through them. And because you have changed, the meaning of those experiences must also change. Pain becomes suffering the moment you attach a story to it. I failed, so I'm not capable. They left, so I'm not worthy. I was rejected, so I'm not enough. I made a mistake, so I'm broken. These stories feel true because they are emotional truths, not objective ones. They are conclusions drawn by a wounded mind, not a healed one. And until you rewrite them, you will keep living inside the emotional architecture of your past. You cannot heal if you keep telling the wrong story about what happened. Your wounds were never meant to define you. They were meant to reveal you. They showed you where you cared deeply. They showed you where your vulnerability lived. They showed you what boundaries you needed, what standards you lacked, what lessons you hadn't learned yet. Pain was never a punishment. It was information. The spiritual scientific truth is that every intense emotional experience creates an energetic imprint in your body. Left unprocessed, it becomes stored tension, stored fear, stored narratives. Your nervous system reacts, not to what is happening now, but to what happened years ago. Your reactions today are often echoes of meanings you created long before you had the strength or awareness you have now. This is why reframing matters. When you change the meaning, you change the memory. When you change the memory, you change the emotional charge. When you change the emotional charge, you change your future. Reflection is not the same as dwelling. Reflection asks, "What did this teach me?" Dwelling says, "Look what it did to me." Reflection looks forward. Dwelling drags you backward. Pain only becomes poisonous when you recycle it. Rewriting your wounds begins with one simple truth. You did not deserve what hurt you, but you deserve to grow beyond it. You cannot control what others did, but you can control what it means for your life from this moment forward. You are not responsible for the event, but you are responsible for the story you attach to it. There is an alchemy inside you, the ability to transform the emotional weight of your experiences. This alchemy begins with language. The words you use shape your inner world. "They abandoned me" becomes, "They revealed what kind of love I should never accept again." "I failed miserably" becomes, "I discovered a path that wasn't aligned with me." "I was hurt deeply" becomes, "I learned what my heart is capable of surviving." These aren't delusions. They are elevated interpretations that free you instead of imprisoning you. The mind is powerful, but it is also literal. It believes the sentences you repeat. Repeat weakness, and you live weak. Repeat shame, and you move as if you are unworthy. Repeat old wounds with the same old meaning, and your life becomes a loop. This is why so many people feel stuck. It's not because the past controls them, but because they keep telling the past the same way. Healing does not erase the memory. It erases the meaning that kept you small. Reframing requires honesty, but it also requires compassion. You must allow yourself to see the younger version of you not as a failure, but as someone who was learning, someone who was trying, someone who was doing the best they could with the wisdom they had. It is cruel to judge your old self with the awareness you only gained later. Compassion interrupts that cycle. When you rewrite the meaning of your wounds, something profound happens. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as the victim of your story and start seeing yourself as the author of it. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What did this awaken in me?" Your past no longer chains you. It instructs you, it guides you, it strengthens you. And this is where true inner power is born, not from avoiding pain, but from alchemizing it, not from pretending nothing hurt you, but from understanding why it did and transforming the impact it has on your life now. Not from erasing your story, but from elevating its meaning. There is a version of you on the other side of this reframing, a version who is no longer defined by wounds, but defined by wisdom. A version who looks at their past and feels gratitude instead of grief, strength instead of shame, clarity instead of confusion. A version who realizes that every scar is a reminder, not of what broke them, but of what rebuilt them. Your wounds made you human, but your meaning makes you powerful. Rewrite it, reclaim it, rise from it. Chapter 5. Build inner strength by keeping promises to yourself. Strength is not built in the moments the world sees. Strength is built in the moments no one sees. The small choices, the private commitments, the quiet promises you make to yourself, and then follow through on. Inner strength does not come from talent, confidence, luck, or motivation. It comes from self-trust. And self-trust is born from one simple pattern, repeated over time. You do what you said you would do. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build a brick of inner stability. Every time you break a promise to yourself, even a small one, you weaken the foundation you stand on. The mind keeps score. The nervous system remembers. If you constantly tell yourself one thing, but do another, "I'll start tomorrow. I'll change next week. I'll be better when I feel ready," your subconscious learns not to believe you. And there is no suffering more silent, more corrosive, or more dangerous than losing faith in yourself. Most people have no idea how much their inner chaos comes from this one source: repeated self-abandonment. They mistake their lack of consistency for laziness, when in reality, it's a lack of self-trust. You don't follow through because, deep down, you don't believe yourself anymore. You've broken too many promises to yourself for your mind to take your intentions seriously. And so every new goal feels heavy. Every new habit feels impossible. Every change feels overwhelming. Not because you can't do it, but because you no longer feel like someone who does what they say. This is where discipline becomes powerful, not as punishment, but as reclamation. Discipline is the act of proving to yourself, again and again, that your word means something. It is the process of retraining your mind to believe you. At its core, discipline has nothing to do with pressure and everything to do with identity. You don't become disciplined because you force yourself. You become disciplined because you become someone who keeps their own promises. Start small. So small it feels almost ridiculous. 1 minute of journaling. 10 conscious breaths. 1 paragraph read. 5 minutes of cleaning. 1 tiny act aligned with your intention. Why? Because every time you follow through, even with something small, your system learns, "I can trust myself again." You rebuild integrity, not with grand gestures, but with consistent truth. Inner strength is not measured in intensity. It is measured in reliability. People admire those who are confident, but confidence is simply the side effect of accumulated self-trust. When you repeatedly act in alignment with your intentions, your nervous system calms. Your energy stops leaking through guilt, doubt, and overthinking. You become grounded. You become clear. You become someone who moves through the world with quiet certainty, not because life is easy, but because you are steady. Keeping promises to yourself also changes the way you respond to challenges. When life becomes hard, Most people collapse into old habits because they never built the muscle of consistency. But when you have practiced showing up for yourself, even in small moments, your mind stops panicking. It knows you can handle discomfort. It knows you can make hard decisions. It knows you can stay the course even when your emotions fluctuate. The spiritual scientific layer is simple. Every kept promise creates coherence in your energy field. Your thoughts, actions, and desires line up. You no longer send mixed signals to yourself or the world. When your inner world is coherent, your outer world becomes more aligned. You attract opportunities more easily because you recognize and act on them with confidence instead of hesitation. Consistency strengthens your frequency. Broken promises scatter it. There is a quiet dignity in being someone whose actions match their words. It's rare. It's powerful. It's magnetic. When you say you will do something and you do it, you become a person others trust. More importantly, you become a person you trust. But you must also release the guilt of the times you failed. Shame does not build strength. Responsibility does. Forgive yourself for the promises you broke. You were not weak. You were overwhelmed, misaligned, unprepared, or trying to grow faster than you had the structure for. What matters is not the promises you failed to keep in the past. What matters is the promise you choose to keep now. The promise to rebuild your relationship with yourself. This chapter is not about perfection. It is about alignment. You will not keep every promise. You will not succeed every day. You will make mistakes, slip, fall, and forget. That is human. But every time you return to yourself with honesty and discipline, you regain strength. Every time you choose alignment over avoidance, your inner world becomes more stable. Every time you show up, even a little, you become more grounded, more resilient, more powerful. Inner strength is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, patient, protective, and steady. It lives in the daily choices no one sees. It grows in the silence where you meet yourself. And it becomes unbreakable when you realize that the most important promise you will ever keep is the one you make to your own growth. Become the kind of person you can trust. That alone will change your life. Chapter 6. Surround yourself with people who make you emotionally safe. The people you allow into your life shape the landscape of your inner world. Their words, their energy, their presence. They influence your thoughts, your nervous system, your confidence, and even your sense of identity. That's why emotional safety is not a luxury. It's a requirement for any meaningful growth. Without it, you shrink. With it, you rise. Emotional safety is not about comfort or softness. It's about truth. It's about being around people who allow you to show your real self without fear. Your strength, your weakness, your excitement, your confusion, your ideas, your wounds. People who don't weaponize your vulnerability. People who don't punish your honesty. People who don't mistake your sensitivity for foolishness. People whose presence relaxes your chest instead of tightening it. Most people underestimate how deeply their nervous system responds to the people around them. Your body knows long before your mind does. It knows when you're around someone who drains your energy. It knows when you're walking on emotional eggshells. It knows when you've made yourself small, just to maintain peace. Over time, that subtle contraction becomes constant. You forget who you were before the tension. But the opposite is also true. When you are around emotionally safe people, your entire inner world expands. Your breath deepens. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your intuition becomes louder. Your creativity wakes back up. Safety is the soil that allows self-expression to grow. Without it, the best parts of you stay hidden. waiting. Emotional danger is not always loud. It can be subtle. Sarcasm disguised as jokes, dismissal disguised as advice, manipulation disguised as concern. It's the feeling that you must rehearse your truth before speaking it. It's the sense that you will be misunderstood before you even open your mouth. It's the quiet fear that you will be judged for wanting more, dreaming bigger, or simply being who you are. If you leave a conversation feeling smaller, it's not a coincidence. Energy does not lie. Some people are not bad. They are just not safe for your emotional ecosystem. Their unhealed wounds spill into the space between you. Their insecurity turns into criticism. Their chaos becomes your responsibility. Their lack of self-awareness becomes your exhaustion. You cannot grow in soil that rejects your roots. This is why spiritual and scientific teachings align here. Your nervous system regulates itself more efficiently in the presence of safe people. Their calm becomes your calm. Their groundedness becomes your groundedness. Their stability helps stabilize you. Humans are energetic beings. That is not poetry. It's biology. Your nervous system synchronizes with the environment around you. The more emotionally safe your environment is, the more coherent your own energy becomes. People who make you emotionally safe share similar qualities. They listen to understand, not to compete. They don't interrupt your feelings with their insecurities. They don't shame you for needing clarity. They don't twist your words to protect their ego. They hold space, not to fix you, but to witness you. And this witnessing is powerful. It allows your inner being to unfold without resistance. But safety is not one-sided. To attract emotionally safe people, you must also become emotionally safe. This means developing your own clarity, your own kindness, your own emotional maturity. It means listening without judgment, communicating with honesty, and respecting other people's boundaries as much as your own. You cannot hold chaos inside and expect peace outside. You attract what mirrors your inner frequency. There will also be times when choosing safety requires letting go. Some relationships cannot travel with the person you are becoming. Some connections belong to an older version of you. Keeping them feels familiar, but familiarity is not the same as harmony. Longevity is not the same as safety. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that their energy does not support your evolution. Releasing them is not betrayal, it's alignment. You deserve relationships that feel like exhaling. You deserve conversations where you don't have to translate your soul into smaller sentences. You deserve people who celebrate your growth, not fear it. Who encourage your strength, not resent it. Who hold your truth without dropping it. People who are emotionally safe are not perfect. They are aware. They don't avoid conflict. They handle it with maturity. They don't punish you for being honest. They appreciate it. They don't retreat when things get difficult. They work through it with presence. They don't shut you down. They help you evolve. Being around them elevates your energy instead of fragmenting it. Emotional safety is also a doorway to deeper courage. When you feel supported, you take risks you never would have taken alone. You speak ideas you once buried. You try things you once doubted. You dream in a bigger direction. Safety does not make you soft. It makes you brave. It gives your spirit room to breathe, explore, and expand. And yes, at first, safety may feel strange if you've been raised on chaos. Peace may feel unfamiliar if tension is all you've ever known. When someone treats you gently, you may distrust it. When someone listens, you may wait for the criticism. When someone respects your boundaries, you may think something is wrong. That is normal. Your nervous system has simply learned to expect danger. But with time, with repetition, with the right people, you begin to recalibrate. Peace becomes natural again. The truth is, you don't need many people. You just need the right ones. A small circle of emotionally safe individuals can change the entire direction of your life. They nourish your spirit, sharpen your mind, and steady your heart. They remind you of who you are when you forget. They bring out the version of you that you were always meant to be. Protect your emotional ecosystem like it's sacred, because it is. Treat your peace like something priceless, because it is. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not everyone has earned the right to hold your truth. Give your time, energy, and vulnerability to those who meet you with respect, clarity, and presence. Once you experience emotional safety, you will never again waste your spirit on environments that starve it. You will walk away sooner, choose wiser, and love deeper. Your circle will shrink, but your peace will expand, and that expansion will change everything. Chapter 7. Learn to manage your emotions instead of escaping them. Emotions are not the enemy. They are signals, messengers, currents of energy moving through your inner world. They exist to guide you, to warn you, to awaken you. Yet most people spend their entire lives trying to outrun what they feel. They distract themselves, numb themselves, bury themselves in noise and movement and busyness, anything to avoid being alone with the truth rising inside their chest. But avoiding emotions doesn't protect you. It fractures you. What you suppress does not disappear. It waits. What you deny returns stronger. What you fear becomes the cage you build around yourself. Managing your emotions does not mean controlling them with force or pretending you're unaffected. It means learning the language of your inner energy. It means understanding that your emotions are not flaws. They are feedback. Anger shows you where your boundaries have been crossed. Sadness invites you to slow down and heal. Anxiety reveals imbalance or unmet needs. Fear highlights where growth is waiting. Even discomfort has purpose. It points you toward what still needs attention. When you honor these signals instead of escaping them, you reclaim your power. Most people escape because they believe feeling deeply makes them weak. But spiritual science teaches the opposite. Emotional awareness expands your energetic field, while emotional avoidance fractures it. When you suppress what you feel, your nervous system becomes tight, reactive, oversensitive. When you allow what you feel, your system becomes coherent and grounded. The body is always speaking, through tension, tightness, restlessness, heaviness. When you ignore these sensations, you disconnect from your inner intelligence. But when you listen, you align your mind, body, and energy again. Escaping emotions can take many forms: overworking, endless scrolling, comfort eating, staying busy every second, chasing stimulation, or pretending everything is fine. These behaviors numb, but they do not heal. They are emotional anesthesia. And like all anesthesia, when it wears off, the pain returns, and often stronger. You cannot outrun what lives inside you. You can only turn toward it. Managing emotions begins with a simple act: noticing. Name what you're feeling without judgment. Instead of saying, "I'm overwhelmed," pause and say, "I feel overwhelmed." That one word, feel, creates distance between your identity and your emotion. You stop becoming the storm and start observing it. From this place of awareness, your thinking softens. You regain clarity. You begin to move wisely instead of impulsively. Emotions intensify when you resist them. They soften when you allow them. Allowing an emotion does not mean indulging it. It means letting it exist without repression. Sit with your sadness without drowning in it. Face your anger without acting from it. Acknowledge your fear without shrinking under it. This is strength, staying present in the inner fire without letting it consume you. Your breath is your anchor. When emotion rises, your breath becomes shallow, fast, chaotic. You cannot think clearly when your body believes it is in danger. Slow breathing tells your nervous system that you are safe. Inhaling deeply, exhaling slowly. This simple act begins to reset your emotional chemistry. Your heart rate slows. Your thoughts reorganize. Your energy stabilizes. Breath is not just air. It is the remote control for your emotional state. Expression is another form of emotional intelligence. Suppressed emotions don't dissolve. They leak through irritability, stress, fatigue, or sudden outbursts. When you express your emotions in healthy ways, writing, speaking, movement, tears, you release the energy stored in your body. This is why, after crying, you often feel lighter. The body is designed to release emotional energy, not store it indefinitely. But managing emotions also requires truth. You must stop blaming others for what rises within you. People may trigger your emotions, but they do not create them. The emotion already lived inside you. They just touched the place where it hid. When you take responsibility, not for what you feel, but for how you respond, you become powerful. You stop waiting for people to behave differently so you can feel better. You take command of your inner world. Some emotions come from old wounds that were never healed. They resurface in new situations wearing new faces. That is why similar patterns repeat. Your mind is trying to complete a chapter you refuse to reread. When you trace an emotion back to its root, it loses its grip. Understanding dissolves intensity. The moment you see the origin, the pattern begins to break. Managing emotions does not mean avoiding discomfort. Growth is uncomfortable. Healing is uncomfortable. Honesty is uncomfortable. But discomfort is not a threat. It is transformation in motion. When you learn to stay present with discomfort instead of escaping it, you expand your emotional capacity. You grow a heart that can hold more life without collapsing. You must also see that emotional maturity requires boundaries. Not every voice deserves access to your energy. Not every situation deserves your reaction. People who add chaos to your life do not deserve control over your inner weather. You protect your emotional world by choosing carefully where your attention goes. Attention is energy. Where you place it determines your emotional climate. A regulated emotional life doesn't mean you never feel intense emotions. It means your emotions no longer dominate your choices. You stop reacting to every rise and fall. You become steady. You become grounded. You begin to act from clarity rather than impulse. You start choosing responses that align with who you want to become, not who you used to be. Your emotions are waves. They rise, they peak, they fall. None of them are permanent. Do not make permanent decisions based on temporary emotional spikes. Let the wave pass. Then think. Then choose. Wisdom lives after the wave, not inside it. Your physical body also affects your emotional state. Lack of sleep, dehydration, poor nutrition, and inactivity make emotions heavier and harder to manage. Your body is the vessel of your emotional energy. Treat it well, and emotional balance becomes easier. Treat it poorly, and everything feels amplified. Finally, learn to forgive yourself for the moments when your emotions overwhelmed you. You will lose your temper. You will say things you regret. You will have days where the storm inside is louder than your ability to manage it. That's not failure. It's humanity. The goal is not to eliminate storms, but to become someone who can stand in the rain without falling apart. Managing emotions is not about perfection. It's about awareness, responsibility, and presence. It's about listening to the signals within you instead of running from them. It's about allowing your feelings to move through you without letting them dictate your path. When you master this, life changes. You stop being pushed around by emotional currents. You begin to walk with calm, clarity, and inner control. You become someone who feels deeply, yet remains steady, a rare combination, and a powerful one. When you learn to manage your emotions instead of escaping them, you don't just survive your inner world, you lead it. Chapter 8. Do meaningful work that makes you proud. Inside. Meaningful work is not about fame, applause, or recognition. It's not about showing the world how accomplished you are. It's about what you feel in the quiet moments, when no one is watching. The deep, steady pride that grows when your actions align with your values. That feeling doesn't come from titles, money, or external rewards. It comes from the invisible truth in your heart. I'm using my time for something that matters. Most people work because they have to. They chase income, security, stability. And while these things matter, they cannot fill the inner void that forms when your work feels disconnected from who you are. You can spend your whole life climbing ladders, only to realize the ladder was leaning on the wrong wall. You can be busy every day and still feel deeply unfulfilled, because activity is not the same as purpose. Productivity is not the same as meaning, and success without alignment feels empty. Meaningful work begins with a simple question. What do I care about enough to give my life's energy to? The answer to that question is different for every person. For some, meaning comes from helping others. For some, from creating. For others, from building, teaching, healing, improving, or guiding. But at the core of it, meaningful work has nothing to do with scale. It is not measured by how many eyes see it, but by how deeply it resonates with your soul. You can scrub floors with meaning. You can raise a child with meaning. You can run a business with meaning. You can design, cook, repair, organize, craft, or serve with meaning. Meaning is not in the task. Meaning is in the intention. Meaning is in the presence you bring to the work. When your heart participates, even the ordinary becomes sacred. One of the biggest illusions people have is that meaningful work must look glamorous. But meaningful work is not always exciting. It is often repetitive, quiet, demanding. It requires patience, devotion, and effort. But what differentiates meaningful work from empty work is the way it nourishes you. Even on hard days, meaningful work leaves you with a sense of inner alignment instead of depletion. You may be tired, but you're not lost. You may be challenged, but you're not hollow. You can look at yourself honestly and say, "This matters." Spiritual science teaches that when your work aligns with your inner values, your energy system becomes coherent. Your mind, body, and intention move in the same direction. You produce a frequency that is not only stronger, but more stable. People can feel this kind of work. It carries a different vibration, one of sincerity, clarity, and depth. The universe responds to coherence. When your work aligns with your inner truth, opportunities begin to align with you. But alignment requires honesty. If you are constantly doing work you hate just to appear successful, your inner world fractures. If your job demands that you betray your values, your spirit withdraws. If you spend your days doing what drains you, life becomes something to endure, not something to live. You cannot thrive in an environment that shrinks your soul. Sometimes meaningful work means choosing integrity over convenience. It means saying no to things that look good but feel wrong. It means walking away from easy money if it costs you your peace. It means listening to the quiet knowing inside you that whispers, "This is not your path." The greatest regret people carry is not that they worked hard. It's that they worked hard for the wrong things. Meaningful work does not always come from passion. Passion is a flame. It flickers. Meaning is a compass. It stays. You can create meaning anywhere when you bring intention, presence, and care. Finding meaning is less about finding the perfect job and more about becoming the kind of person who brings depth to whatever you touch. Your work becomes meaningful when you do it with heart, you do it with intention, you do it with integrity, you do it with growth, you do it with awareness. This is what creates fulfillment, not the job description, but the person you become through the work. But there is a deeper truth. Meaningful work changes you. It shapes your character. It awakens dormant parts of you. It demands commitment, consistency, and courage. It forces you to grow into someone who doesn't just work, but contributes. Someone who doesn't just survive, but creates value. Someone who doesn't just repeat tasks, but pours soul into action. Meaningful work is also amplified by excellence. Not perfection, excellence. Perfection demands you to be flawless. Excellence demands you to be engaged. When you give your full attention to what you are doing, when you bring your best effort, your work becomes a reflection of your inner discipline. Excellence strengthens your spirit. It builds identity. It creates a quiet pride that no external achievement can replicate. Comparison is the enemy of meaningful work. When you measure your path against someone else's, you disconnect from your own. Your purpose is not supposed to look like anyone else's. No one else has your exact experiences, your exact values, your exact gifts. Meaning comes from authenticity, not imitation. The real question is not, am I doing what others expect? But, does this feel true to me? If your current work doesn't feel meaningful, it doesn't mean you chose wrong. It means you aren't done evolving. You can reshape your work from the inside out. You can bring more awareness, more clarity, more intention. You can shift your focus from outcome to impact. You can begin a small side path that grows into something greater. You can redesign your direction step by step. Meaning doesn't appear. Meaning is built. Remember this. You don't need permission to live a meaningful life. You don't need qualifications to contribute something real. You don't need a perfect plan. You need willingness. Willingness to go deeper than routine. Willingness to move toward alignment. Willingness to do the work that nourishes your spirit instead of draining it. You will know you're doing meaningful work when your days feel purposeful, even if they're hard. When your effort feels like contribution, not obligation. When your growth feels alive. When the pride you feel comes from inside, not from applause. That is the work that lasts. That is the work that becomes a legacy. Not because the world recognizes it, but because it changes you and those you touch. In the end, meaningful work is not about achieving more. It's about becoming more. It's about using your time in a way that expands your spirit. It's about looking back someday and knowing you didn't trade your life for something that didn't matter. It's about ending each day with a quiet, powerful truth. I lived today in alignment, and I am proud of who I became. Chapter 9. Forgive quickly and free your heart from old pain. Forgiveness is one of the most challenging acts a human being can perform, not because it's complicated, but because it demands you to rise above your pain while your pain is still fresh. The heart wants fairness, closure, recognition. It wants the person who hurt you to understand what they did, to fix what they broke, to give back what they took. But life rarely gives that kind of symmetry, and waiting for it keeps you chained to the very moment you want to escape. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is not denial. It is not pretending the wound didn't cut deep. Forgiveness is the courageous decision to release the emotional weight that has been sitting inside your chest so your soul can breathe again. It is choosing freedom over bitterness, peace over resentment, clarity over emotional imprisonment. The moment you choose forgiveness, you stop being defined by the wound and start being defined by your strength. Holding on to anger does not protect you. It traps you. Resentment is a heavy energy. It stagnates your emotional field, restricts your breath, tightens your body, and keeps your nervous system in a constant state of alert. Your mind replays the same scene over and over, trying to rewrite a past that cannot be changed. But spiritual science makes something clear. When your field is clogged with unresolved pain, you disrupt your ability to attract anything aligned, peaceful, or deeply fulfilling. Pain that stays unprocessed becomes a frequency that repeats itself. Forgiveness is how you break the cycle. Forgiveness does not validate the hurt. It does not excuse it. What it does is reclaim your inner power. It says, "You may have hurt me, but you do not get to own me. Not now. Not anymore." It is the moment you decide that your peace matters more than your pride. Pride wants to win. Peace wants to live. When you refuse to forgive, you carry the memory like a weight strapped to your back. Every time you remember it, you relive it. Your body tightens as if the event is happening again. Your emotions rise as if the wound is fresh. The person who hurt you may have moved on with their life, but inside, you remain stuck in the same moment. That is the tragedy of unforgiveness. You continue suffering while they continue living. Forgiveness breaks the loop, but forgiveness requires truth. You cannot forgive what you refuse to acknowledge. You must face the pain honestly. What happened, how it felt, what it changed. You must let yourself grieve the version of you that existed before the wound. Only then can your heart soften enough to release the anger. Denial freezes the pain inside you. Honesty melts it. Some of the deepest forgiveness is not toward others, but toward yourself. You may carry guilt for choices you made, signs you ignored, mistakes you regret, or moments you didn't act the way you wish you had. But punishing yourself does not rewrite the past. It only contaminates the present. You are not the same person who made those mistakes. You have grown, learned, evolved. Self-forgiveness is not letting yourself off the hook. It is allowing your growth to matter. You cannot rise while dragging an old version of yourself behind you. Forgiving others becomes easier when you understand this truth. Hurt people. Hurt people. Most of the pain others inflict comes from their own wounds, their own fears, their own unconscious patterns. Understanding someone's pain does not justify their actions, but it helps you stop personalizing their behavior. Empathy turns emotional poison into emotional perspective. But even then, forgiveness does not always come with reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can release the pain without reopening the relationship. Boundaries protect your peace. Forgiveness protects your heart. They work together, not against each other. Waiting for an apology keeps you trapped. You don't need their acknowledgement to heal. You don't need their remorse to move on. You don't need permission to let go. Forgiveness is between you and your soul, not you and the person who hurt you. Closure is something you give yourself. If forgiveness feels impossible, start with willingness. A willingness to release the weight even if you don't know how yet. The heart doesn't open all at once. It softens gradually. Every time you choose not to replay the story, not to feed the anger, not to hold the grudge closer, your heart loosens a little. Forgiveness is a process, not a moment. Some days the pain will resurface. This does not mean you failed. It means you are still healing. Keep releasing. Keep choosing peace again and again until peace becomes natural. Forgiveness matures you. It teaches you to look at the world through wisdom instead of wounds. It teaches you that your peace cannot depend on the behavior of others. It teaches you that freedom is an inside job. And it teaches you that your heart is stronger, softer, and more resilient than you ever imagined. The body responds instantly to forgiveness. Your breath deepens, your shoulders relax, your nervous system settles, your mind clears. This is because resentment traps energy, while forgiveness allows it to flow again. Your spirit becomes lighter, more receptive, more open to joy. Forgiveness raises your inner frequency. You stop vibrating at the level of the wound and start vibrating at the level of healing. Forgiveness also makes room for new relationships and new possibilities. When your heart is full of old stories, there is no space for new beginnings. But when you finally release the past, the future stops feeling blocked. Life begins to move again. Opportunities arrive. Connections deepen. Love becomes possible. Forgiveness is not just emotional, it's transformational. Some wounds you carry are not from people, but from life itself. Disappointments, unfairness, loss, missed chances, unexpected endings. But holding resentment toward life only blinds you to what is still available. Life will never be perfect, but it can always be meaningful. Forgiveness toward life frees your spirit from the belief that everything should have happened differently. It allows you to see the hidden gifts inside the pain, the strength beneath the struggle, the wisdom born from every chapter you endured. Ultimately, forgiveness is not a gift to the one who hurt you. It is a gift to yourself. It is you choosing to live without the weight that has been crushing your spirit. It is you stepping out of the prison you didn't realize you were still in. It is you deciding that your heart deserves to be free. You become unstoppable when you are no longer carrying what broke you. Forgive quickly, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Forgive deeply, not because the past was light, but because the future is. Forgive completely, not because forgetting is possible, but because healing is. Your heart was never meant to carry old pain forever. Let it go. Let yourself breathe again. Let yourself live again. Forgiveness doesn't change the past. It changes you. And when you change, life opens in ways you couldn't see before. Chapter 10. Treat your time as sacred. Your life is built from what you give your energy to. Time is the most valuable currency you have, yet most people treat it like it's endless. They spend their days reacting, scrolling, distracting themselves, giving their attention away to anything loud enough to pull it. They don't realize that life is not taken, it is traded. Every hour you spend is an hour you will never see again. Every decision you make with your time is a declaration of who you are becoming. Your future is not shaped by your goals. It is shaped by where your time goes. When you understand this, your entire life changes. You stop wasting your days on things that drain you. You stop giving energy to people who don't value it. You stop letting chaos and distraction run your schedule. You stop treating your time like something casual. You begin to protect it the way you would protect something priceless. Because it is. Time is not just hours on a clock. Time is attention. Time is energy. Time is presence. Time is life. Whatever you feed with your time grows. Whatever you starve with your time dies. This is why the most powerful people are not the smartest or the most talented. They are the ones who know how to direct their time with intention. They choose with clarity. They act with purpose. They refuse to give their days away to anything that does not align with who they want to become. Spiritual science affirms this. Your energy field responds to whatever you repeatedly give your attention to. Your attention is the magnet. Your time is the reinforcement. When you consistently invest your time in low-vibration habits, scrolling, complaining, avoiding, comparing, you lower your inner frequency. You train your mind to expect little, to settle, to stay small. But when you invest your time in alignment, growth, truth, creation, healing, your frequency strengthens. You expand. You rise. You attract differently. This is why being intentional with your time is a form of self-respect. Every boundary you set, every priority you protect, every distraction you eliminate says, "My life matters." You begin to understand that not everything deserves your attention, and not everyone gets access to your hours. The wrong people drain time. The right people multiply it. The wrong environment wastes time. The right environment sharpens it. The wrong habits steal time. The right habits elevate it. Time spent aligned expands your life. Time spent misaligned dissolves it. Most people overestimate how much time they have and underestimate how much they waste. They delay their dreams, thinking they'll start later. They stay in environments that don't grow them, assuming things will change on their own. They overcommit, overgive, overextend, and leave nothing for themselves. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted, resentful, lost. They don't have a problem with capacity. They have a problem with allocation. If you want to change your life, track how you spend your time. Not your money, not your thoughts, not your feelings. Your time reveals your real priorities. Look closely and ask, is this where I want my life to go? The truth may sting, but it is the doorway to evolution. You cannot build a meaningful life with the habits of someone who is merely surviving. The greatest shift happens when you realize your time is not a resource you hand out. It's a resource you invest. When you begin to think of your time like money, everything sharpens. You become selective, mindful, decisive. You stop letting small things consume hours of your life. You stop loaning your time to people who repay you with stress or negativity. You stop spending your days reacting to life and start directing it with clarity. This doesn't mean your life becomes rigid or robotic. It becomes intentional. You create space for rest, creativity, joy, love, and silence, all the things that nourish your inner world. You understand that time is not meant to be filled. It is meant to be honored. A full schedule does not prove you're valuable. A meaningful schedule proves you're awake. Your time also reveals your standards. If you tolerate wasted hours, you will tolerate a wasted life. If you protect your minutes, you protect your future. Time is the evidence of what you truly believe you deserve. People who know their worth do not allow anything or anyone to drain their most precious resource. They say no easily. They leave quickly. They choose their priorities without guilt. Not because they are selfish, but because they understand the cost of misaligned time. When you treat your time as sacred, you become dangerous in the best way. You become focused, intentional, grounded. You stop being swept into other people's chaos. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop living on autopilot. You start making decisions that honor the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. Time management is not about scheduling every minute. It's about removing the unnecessary. It's about choosing depth over noise, direction over distraction, quality over quantity. When you do that, life simplifies. Clarity returns, creativity rises, peace expands, the noise fades, and perhaps the most powerful truth of all. When you treat your time as sacred, you attract people who treat you the same way. People who value your presence, respect your boundaries, and grow with you instead of pulling you backward. Because time is a mirror. How you treat it is how life treats you. Your time is your life. Your life is your choices. Your choices are your destiny. Guard it, honor it, direct it with intention. Everything you desire begins with what you do with the hours in front of you. Chapter 11. What you allow is what you end up living. Your life is a reflection of everything you have allowed, every behavior you tolerated, every boundary you never set, every situation you stayed in too long, every excuse you accepted from yourself or others. Most people don't realize this. They think life just happens, that circumstances shape them, that external forces determine their path. But the truth is sharper. Your life expands or contracts according to what you permit. Every time you allowed disrespect because you didn't want conflict, you taught the world how to treat you. Every time you tolerated chaos because you were afraid to be alone, you shaped your emotional environment. Every time you stayed quiet when you should have spoken, you dimmed your own voice. Every time you settled for less, you weakened the part of you that wanted more. You are not responsible for the behavior of others, but you are responsible for the access you give them. And access without boundaries always leads to emotional erosion. Your standards are not statements. They are filters. They determine what enters your life, what stays, and what gets removed. Low standards attract low-quality experiences. Strong standards create a strong life. You cannot build a high-quality existence while tolerating low-quality behavior. You cannot expect peace while entertaining chaos. You cannot expect clarity while allowing confusion to stay in your space. What you allow is what you live. Spiritual science explains this clearly. Your energy field adapts to whatever you repeatedly permit. If you allow negativity, your field weakens. If you allow disrespect, your energy contracts. If you accept inconsistency, your nervous system becomes unstable. But if you enforce strong boundaries, your energy strengthens. If you protect your peace, your frequency rises. If you choose alignment over comfort, your entire reality shifts. Life responds to your standards, not your wishes. The problem is that most people don't realize how much they are allowing. They normalize the pain. They adjust to dysfunction. They get used to disrespect. They learn to call chaos love and inconsistency passion. The nervous system adapts to whatever it receives long enough. But adaptation doesn't mean alignment. It means survival. You must learn to differentiate between what feels familiar and what feels right. Because familiarity can be dangerous if it comes from old wounds. You will continue allowing what feels familiar until you consciously choose differently. Healing begins when you stop accepting things that hurt your peace. And yes, raising your standards will cost you people. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you the versions of yourself that needed validation, approval, or permission. It will stretch you. It will require honesty that stings and choices that feel heavy. But nothing is more expensive than abandoning yourself to keep situations that are killing your spirit. Every choice you make teaches your future how to treat you. Every boundary you set teaches life what you will no longer tolerate. Every refusal to accept less realigns you with your highest self. Your higher self lives in clarity, not confusion. In truth, not avoidance. In alignment, not attachment. It knows exactly what environments you thrive in. It knows exactly which connections elevate you. It knows exactly which actions nourish your evolution. When you ignore that knowing, you suffer. When you honor it, your entire life recalibrates. What you allow is what shapes your inner world. Allow chaos, and you live chaotic. Allow disrespect, and you live diminished. Allow excuses, and you live stagnant. Allow avoidance, and you live confused. Allow your old patterns to stay, and your life never changes. But the reverse is just as powerful. Allow peace, and you live grounded. Allow respect, and you live valued. Allow discipline, and you live empowered. Allow honesty, and you live aligned. Allow boundaries, and you live free. People often fear raising their standards because they fear losing connections. But the truth is, the right people are never lost by higher standards. They are revealed by them. Strong standards repel what is unaligned and attract what is meant for you. They filter out what harms you and make space for what heals you. You do not build a new life through force. You build it through allowance. You allow better things by refusing the lesser ones. You allow growth by rejecting stagnation. You allow real love by shutting the door on emotional crumbs. You allow clarity by walking away from confusion. You allow your highest path by stopping the behaviors that pull you away from it. In every moment, you are either training the world to treat you with respect or teaching it that you accept less. You are either honoring your path or abandoning it. You are either choosing your highest self or protecting your patterns. The life you desire will require stronger boundaries, higher self-respect, clearer choices, and deeper self-awareness. That's the truth people don't want to hear. But once you accept it, the path becomes clear. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop entertaining what drains you. You stop apologizing for standards that protect your peace. You stop allowing what breaks you. The moment you stop allowing what hurts you, you make room for what heals you. Nothing changes until you do. Nothing shifts until you raise your standards. Nothing stops until you refuse to tolerate it for one more day. What you allow is what you live. Choose wisely. Choose consciously. Choose with self-respect. Chapter 12. You become unstoppable when you live your truth. There is a version of you that is powerful, clear, calm, direct, and unshakably authentic. But most people never meet that version of themselves because they spend their entire lives trying to be who the world expects instead of who they truly are. They shrink parts of themselves to fit in. They silence their opinions to avoid conflict. They adjust their personality to match the room. They betray their instincts to gain approval. And every time they do it, they drift further away from their truth. The cost of not living your truth is subtle at first. Fatigue, irritation, confusion, emotional heaviness. But over time, it becomes suffocating. When you live out of alignment, your energy fractures. Your mind becomes noisy. Your emotions become unpredictable. You second-guess yourself constantly. You feel like you're fading in your own life. That is the emotional price of pretending. Living your truth is not about being loud or rebellious. It's about being honest. honest about what you want, honest about what you feel, honest about what you will and will not allow, honest about who you are when no one is watching. It is the courage to stop performing and start existing as your real self. The spiritual scientific truth is that authenticity creates coherence. When your thoughts, feelings, choices, and actions are aligned, your inner energy becomes strong and stable. You stop leaking power. You stop scattering your attention. You stop fighting yourself. You begin moving through life with a clarity that other people can feel. Authenticity isn't just a personality trait. It's an energetic frequency. When you carry that frequency, your presence becomes lighter, sharper, freer. People often say they want confidence, but confidence is simply the natural byproduct of living your truth. You stop seeking validation because you no longer betray yourself. You stop fearing judgment because you know your own intentions. You stop competing because you're rooted in your own path. Confidence is not built in front of other people. It is built in the moments you choose yourself over approval. Living your truth will challenge you. It will require you to confront the parts of your life that are misaligned, the friendships that drain you, the habits that weaken you, the dreams you abandoned, the boundaries you never set. It will force you to ask, am I living as who I truly am, or am I living as who I think I should be? Awareness brings discomfort before it brings freedom. But the discomfort is temporary. The freedom is permanent. Your truth will not always be understood. Not everyone will approve. Some people will feel threatened when you stop playing the role they're used to. Some will call you selfish for choosing yourself. Some will distance themselves because your authenticity exposes their avoidance. Do not let this scare you. Losing people who require your self-betrayal is not loss. It is alignment. You were not born to dim your light to make others comfortable. You were not born to apologize for your clarity, your ambition, your sensitivity, or your vision. You were not born to live inside someone else's expectations. Your soul has its own blueprint, its own timing, its own calling, its own path. When you ignore that path, life feels heavy. When you follow it, life begins to flow. Living your truth also means honoring your inner voice. That quiet knowing inside you, the instinct, the intuition, the gut feeling, is your internal compass. It is not irrational. It is not imagination. It is your subconscious, your experience, your emotional intelligence, and your spiritual frequency, communicating with you all at once. When you ignore it, you walk in confusion. When you trust it, you walk in clarity. Your truth will protect you. It will direct you toward environments where your soul grows. It will pull you away from places where your spirit is shrinking. It will guide you toward people who see you clearly, and away from those who only see their version of you. It will demand self-respect, and in return, it will give you peace. Living your truth is not an event. It is a practice. It is choosing honesty over comfort. It is choosing alignment over approval. It is choosing clarity over confusion. It is choosing long-term inner calm over short-term external validation. Every time you choose your truth, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. You become more grounded, more stable, more fearless. Your truth will ask for sacrifices. You may need to disappoint others to stay aligned. You may need to let go of old identities. You may need to walk away from environments where your true self cannot breathe. But the life you want can only be built by the person you truly are, not the version you pretend to be. The world becomes easier when you stop negotiating your truth. You stop overthinking your decisions. You stop explaining yourself endlessly. You stop feeling ashamed for your needs. You start living with intention. You start speaking with clarity. You start moving with purpose. You start attracting people and opportunities that match your energy, not your mask. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows who they are, what they stand for, and what they refuse to compromise. A person who lives in truth cannot be manipulated, controlled, or diminished. Their energy becomes sharp, steady, and unmistakable. Their presence becomes magnetic. Their path becomes clear. Their spirit becomes unstoppable. You don't become unstoppable by force. You become unstoppable by alignment, by truth, by authenticity, by becoming the person your soul has been calling you to be all along. The world doesn't need a watered-down version of you. It needs the real you, the aligned you, the truthful you, the unapologetic you. Live your truth, and life will rise to meet you. Chapter 13. Your habits shape your destiny in ways motivation never will. Most people wait for motivation to change their lives, but motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with your emotions, your environment, your hormones, your mood, your circumstances. Anything fragile cannot build anything lasting. That is why people start strong and fade quickly, because they depend on a feeling instead of a system. But the truth is simple and uncomfortable. Your life is not shaped by what you want. It is shaped by what you repeat. Habits are the architecture of your destiny. They are the invisible patterns that determine the quality of your days, and therefore, the quality of your life. Your future doesn't arrive suddenly. It is built quietly through the choices you make every single day. Your habits are your future in slow motion. If you want to predict a person's direction, you don't look at their goals. You look at their habits. Spiritual science affirms this. Every habit creates a frequency, a pattern of energy that your subconscious begins to follow automatically. Good habits create coherence. Bad habits create fragmentation. When your actions align with your intention consistently, your energetic field strengthens. Your mind becomes clearer. Your life expands. But when your habits contradict your intentions, your inner world becomes chaotic. You feel stuck, confused, or drained. Not because your dreams are impossible, but because your habits are pulling you in the opposite direction. Most people underestimate how much their daily patterns determine their emotional health, mental clarity, financial stability, relationships, confidence, and peace. They think big events change their lives, but it's the small, repeated actions that shape everything. 1 hour wasted every morning doesn't seem like much, until you realize it's 365 hours a year. One unhealthy coping mechanism repeated daily turns into a lifestyle. One negative pattern practiced long enough becomes identity. Habits don't just influence you, they become you. Your habits tell the truth about who you are more than your words, hopes, or promises ever will. You are not what you say you want. You are what you consistently do. If you want to rebuild your life, rebuild your habits. If you want to grow, build rituals that match the person you want to become. If you want confidence, create habits that keep your inner world steady. If you want peace, practice behaviors that reduce chaos. If you want alignment, create routines that pull you into your higher self daily. But here's the part most people avoid. Changing habits requires identity change. You cannot adopt the habits of a strong, grounded, disciplined person while still thinking like someone who doubts themselves. You cannot build the habits of a clear, focused person while living inside the beliefs of someone who avoids discomfort. Your habits upgrade only when your self-image upgrades. This is why discipline is not restriction. It is transformation. Discipline is choosing long-term alignment over short-term impulse. It is the willingness to feel discomfort in service of your future self. It is the decision to show up even when you don't feel like it. It's not about pressure. It's about loyalty to your higher path, your potential, your evolution. The key to building powerful habits is not intensity. It is consistency. 1 minute of meditation is better than none. 1 page of reading is better than none. 1 small act done daily is more powerful than a burst of motivation once a month. Your subconscious doesn't care about intensity. It cares about repetition. Repetition rewires your brain. Repetition reshapes your identity. Repetition becomes your new normal. Your environment also shapes your habits. You cannot expect to build new patterns while staying surrounded by old triggers. If the people around you live in distraction, you will drift into distraction. If your environment is chaotic, your habits will crumble easily. If your circle normalizes procrastination, inconsistency, or avoidance, your system will mirror them. Changing your habits often requires changing your surroundings. Not because you're snobbish, but because your nervous system adapts to the energy around it. Your habits also reveal your spiritual alignment. The habits that drain you are signals of misalignment. The habits that energize you are signals of resonance. Your body responds instantly. Pay attention. Your energy is your most honest feedback system, and here is a truth most people never hear. The habits you practice when no one is watching determine the life you live when everyone is. Success is built in silence. Growth is built in private. Transformation is built in the moments where you choose discipline over distraction, effort over comfort, alignment over impulse. No one sees those choices, but everyone sees their results. If you currently have habits you're ashamed of, don't punish yourself. Shame paralyzes. Awareness empowers. You're not flawed. You're untrained. You're not weak. You're undirected. You're not stuck. You're repeating old systems, and systems can be replaced. The smallest habit can shift your entire destiny when repeated long enough. A 10-minute evening reflection can change the choices you make. A morning ritual can change the tone of your day. A simple boundary can change the course of your life. Never underestimate the power of tiny, aligned actions. They build momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity builds destiny. You don't need perfect habits. You need aligned ones. You don't need dramatic change. You need consistent change. You don't need motivation. You need structure. Your habits are the daily vote for the person you are becoming. Cast them wisely. Cast them consciously. Cast them with the awareness that every choice leaves a trace in your future. You are building a life with every action. Build one you are proud to live in. Chapter 14. Stop negotiating with your old self. There comes a point in your growth where the biggest battle is no longer between you and the world. It's between you and the version of yourself you're trying to outgrow. The old self will bargain with you. It will negotiate. It will whisper excuses, tempt you with comfort, distract you with old habits, and try to pull you back into the identity you've already outgrown. Not because it wants to sabotage you, but because it's familiar. The old self is built from survival, routine, repetition. It does not understand your evolution. It only understands what kept you safe before. But growth is not safety. Growth is expansion. And expansion demands you stop negotiating with the parts of you that prefer smallness, comfort, and predictability. Every time you decide to change, your old self shows up like a lawyer, building a case against your evolution. Just do it tomorrow. You're tired today. You don't need to push this hard. No one will know if you skip. You've already done enough. These thoughts are not weakness. They are old programming. Patterns your brain learned long before you decided to rise. And if you keep negotiating with them, you will keep living the same life. You cannot build a new identity while allowing the old one to be in charge of your decisions. Spiritual science explains this perfectly. Every identity carries a frequency. Your old identity vibrates at the level of your past habits, past fears, past standards, past beliefs. Your new identity lives at a higher frequency: discipline, clarity, alignment, courage. But you cannot hold two frequencies at the same time. You must choose, moment by moment, which identity you are feeding. Every time you negotiate with your old self, you strengthen the neural pathways that keep you stuck. Every time you choose the future version of you, you strengthen the neural pathways that will free you. Your life is the sum of these decisions. Negotiation feels harmless, but it is deadly. It is how dreams dissolve. It is how confidence erodes. It is how people stay trapped in cycles for years. Not because they are incapable, but because they keep giving their old self a voice in decisions that belong to their higher self. Your old self wants the past. Your new self wants the future. You cannot live both. The old self lives in impulse, avoidance, excuses, and emotional comfort. The new self lives in clarity, intention, discipline, and emotional maturity. To step into the new you, you must become someone who does not negotiate with the lower version of yourself. You must decide once, and then act according to that decision repeatedly. You must treat your goals like promises, not suggestions. You must treat your standards like boundaries, not options. And here's the truth. The old self will not disappear quietly. It will show up in moments of stress, loneliness, fatigue, boredom, uncertainty. It will try to convince you that comfort is safety. But comfort is not safety. Comfort is stagnation. Growth feels uncomfortable because you are teaching your nervous system a new way of being. Discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is a sign you are entering a new frequency. Your transformation requires you to become ruthless with your old patterns. Not cruel, not harsh, but ruthless, firm, clear, unwavering. You must learn to say, "No, we don't do that anymore. No, that's not who I am now. No, I'm not negotiating with that version of me." No emotion, no debate, no bargaining. When you stop negotiating, everything becomes easier. Not because life becomes easier, but because your choices become non-negotiable. You eliminate the mental noise of indecision. You end the emotional back and forth that drains your energy. You stop living in internal conflict. You begin to move with clarity, decisiveness, and power. This is what alignment feels like, a straight line between intention and action. Your old self must be thanked, not hated. It was the version of you that survived. It protected you when you didn't have the strength, awareness, or tools you have now. But its job is done. When you cling to your old self out of familiarity, you block the future that is trying to unfold. Transformation is the art of releasing the outdated version of you with love, while standing fiercely in the becoming of your higher self. Your new life will cost you your old one. Your growth will cost you your comfort. Your discipline will cost you your excuses. Your evolution will cost you your familiar patterns. Your higher self will cost you the identity you built from fear. This is the price of becoming unstoppable. This is the cost of rising. And it's worth everything. Stop negotiating with your old self. It has nothing new to offer you. Your future begins the moment you stop arguing with your past. Conclusion. The quiet power within. When all the noise fades, when pressure dissolves, when the world stops pulling you in every direction, what remains is you, your presence, your clarity, your inner frequency. And that inner world is where your entire life begins. Everything in this audiobook points back to one truth. You don't change your life by forcing the outside to bend. You change it by mastering what lives within you. Transformation starts when you stop running from yourself. When you get honest about your patterns, your wounds, your habits, your emotions. When you stop pretending everything is fine and finally choose awareness over avoidance, clarity over confusion, alignment over approval. The moment you return to yourself, your life begins to shift. Your mind becomes steady when you train it. Your emotions become teachers when you listen to them. Your habits become your future when you build them intentionally. Your time becomes sacred when you protect it. Your standards rise when you decide you deserve more than survival. The world has taught you to look outward for answers, validation, and direction. But the real power is internal. When your energy is aligned, you stop chasing and start attracting. When your presence is grounded, you stop reacting and start choosing. When your truth becomes your compass, you stop negotiating with your old self and step fully into the person you were meant to become. You don't need louder motivation. You need deeper self-respect. You don't need a perfect path. You need an intentional one. You don't need a new life. You need a new relationship with yourself. The strongest version of you is not the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels deeply, but remains steady. The most successful version of you is the one who shows up for themselves again and again, even without applause. And the most aligned version of you is the one who stops performing and finally becomes real. Your life begins again the moment you decide to live it from within.